training team here at URC. I'm joined today by Jeff Rogers, who's also known as JR, and he'll be answering questions today in the questions box. JR, if you want to just address the class real quick, just say hello and we can answer this one question that has come in before the class has really gotten started, but we can see if we can put his questions to rest and hopefully answer them for him.
Great. Yeah, good morning, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to join us.
So we have a question here which we'll go ahead and address before we get started. I have two questions I would like to get answered during or after this webinar. One, how do you get the remotes to switch to the state that Alexa puts the system into? And two, how do you handle multiple Alexas? I'll answer the first question, well, the second question for you first, since that's the easiest answer. Regardless of how many Alexa modules or Alexa devices you're adding into the system, you only need one Alexa in Accelerator. You could have 90 Echoes, you just need one Alexa module in URC Accelerator. And as for the first question, in order to get the remotes to track what's going on with Alexa, you need to create what's called device power macros. Well, not device power macros, I'm sorry. You have to go ahead and set, let me just show you real quick. Hang on one second.
Well, actually, you cover it, don't you?
We do. So if you want to just hang on till we get to that point, we will answer that, but at least I can answer the second question for you immediately, which is an Amazon Echo module in the system, regardless of how many physical devices you have physically. So as for the first part of that question, we'll get to it later on in the class, and we're actually going to jump into a lot of detail about that. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to have a brief presentation, which is just a PowerPoint presentation about Amazon Alexa. Then we're going to take a look at the integration guide, and we're also going to be going between the integration guide and Accelerator, kind of hand in hand, so that you can see how this works, how this looks, and get a good feel for it. And of course, if anybody else has any questions during the entire class, just please go ahead and drop the questions in the questions box, and JR and myself will try to answer them as quickly as possible. If it's something simple that JR can just answer with text, he will. Otherwise, we'll take pauses in between the class to answer any questions. I'm going to assume at this point that everyone can see my screen and hear my voice. However, if I am wrong on that, let me know. But if you guys can see me and hear me, just type in yes into the questions box, and we'll get this presentation underway. All right, perfect. I'm seeing the feedback. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Whoops. So this is a new feature for Total Control. It's been out for a little over a month. It's still new. Customers are still using this. Installers are still freshly installing this. So this is still pretty fresh out there. Okay, I see Rodney did not hear the answers. Well, the first question we're going to get to throughout the class. The second one, how to handle multiple Alexas. You just need one Alexa module in your Accelerator file. Regardless of how many physical units you have, you simply need one. So the Alexa module is a free module that's only available in Accelerator. So it only works with Total Control, as you guys well know. And essentially what this Alexa module does, it allows your customer's voice to call out any macro that would be programmed to a physical button. So there are some caveats when it comes to Alexa modules, which we will discuss once we jump into the integration guide. But for the most part, the Alexa module works by using voice commands to go ahead and trigger a macro. A voice command essentially serves as a button press to go ahead and trigger any macro that you program within Accelerator. When we jump into Accelerator, we're going to show you some examples as to how that is done and how it looks, how to go ahead and set it up, and how essentially you would go ahead and do the vocal trigger to play the macro. So it allows you to create custom skills to control your Total Control system. So what it means by creating custom skills is any macro that's in Accelerator that you want to include in Alexa, Alexa views that as a skill. Reason for that is Alexa's interface, it's almost like a smartphone. You know, with a smartphone you can add apps into it. With Alexa, instead of adding apps, you add what's called skills. And I'm going to show you the Alexa web portal, which is something that you guys would also have to use to program this. You can either use the Alexa web portal or the Alexa mobile app, which is available on iOS or Android. But for today's purposes, I'm going to show you the the web interface since I can't really team viewer into my phone and show you the Alexa app, but it works exactly the same. It looks exactly the same, so regardless whether you're using the web portal or the application on your mobile device, you're going to set it up the same way. So examples of this gives you the ability to turn on lights, turn up the heat on a thermostat such as like Nest or any type of thermostat like that. And there's a lot of other things that you can do. You can do Alexa macros with favorite channels. So one example of this, which JR has told me many times, is Alexa, turn on ESPN. So when you say that, what's going to happen with your total control system is that phrase is the trigger. That's the automation trigger. So once Alexa hears that phrase, it plays the macro that you program into Accelerator that would go ahead and turn the cable box or the satellite box or whatever form of cable media that your customer is using. It would go ahead and perform that. I see we have a question here. Does this mean you need to make macros that are called turn on kitchen TV, turn on family room, turn on? Yes. To answer that question, Rodney, yes, you do. That is the only two forms of trigger that Amazon has allowed URC to use. The thing is, with Amazon, they have a hierarchy of words that trigger things within Alexa's system individually. So separate from total control, Alexa has a list of words that it sorts in a hierarchy for commands. So Alexa can do a lot more than just control your total control system. Alexa has built-in programs into it. It has built-in applications into it. So the only phrases that they allowed URC to use is the phrases turn on and turn off. But you're not limited to just saying turn on the TV or turn off the TV. You can get pretty creative with it. The only thing that gets a little bit strange is the fact that you have to say turn on. So I know it can feel weird to say turn on kitchen or turn on ESPN, but the fact of the matter is that while using that, you're still going to be able to use your voice to go ahead and trigger a macro. So it may be a weird phrase, but it does work and it does the job that it's designed to do. But this is not a limitation that the URC engineers created themselves. This was a limitation that Amazon created for third-party developers, specifically for us. We can only use the triggers of turn on and turn off, which we're going to go into a little bit further when we jump into the integration guide. But yes, to answer your question, Rodney, you must use turn on or turn off. Module is to integrate with all Alexa-enabled devices with a total control system. So if you're using the Echo, the Dot, or the Touch, or any future Alexa-controlled device, it's compatible with this Amazon Alexa module. And like I said in the beginning of the class, you only need one Amazon Alexa module in your total control system, in your total control file. Regardless of how many physical Alexa devices you have, you simply need one. Module allows to utilize voice to execute any program macro in the total control system. This means true automation without the button press. So essentially, your customer's voice becomes the button press. By using the vocal trigger, it sets off the macro. So you can trigger a macro when a voice command matches one of the designated in the voice control macro settings, which I'll show you how that looks. There's actually a way that you can log into your master system controller and view all the Alexa voice commands that you have programmed in your total control system. Not only can you view them, you'll also see the actual phrase to use in order to trigger the command. When Alexa and URC make their handshake for allowing this process to work, there are certain phrases that Alexa will recognize and there are certain phrases that Alexa will not recognize. And this portal that I'm mentioning that allows you to log into your master system controller will tell you the exact phrase to say in order to trigger the specific macro. But we'll take a look at that when we jump into the integration guide, because that's something that's much easier to see as opposed to here. But I just want to let you guys know that so that when I do show you this, it doesn't come off as a surprise. So I like to give a lot of information prior to showing you physically. That way you have an idea of what to expect when we show you what's going on. So for any questions, email me personally, elopez@universalremote.com, or if you want to go ahead and email any questions to the entire training team, training@universalremote.com is also a good method of contact. Like I said, this is just going to be a short PowerPoint. The real meat of this class is going to take place within the integration guide and an accelerator, because that's really what you got to do to get this thing working. Can't really show you much through it. So it's just to give some feedback, some general information. Before we jump into let's go ahead and get the integration guide, which is right. Jump us to the page. Okay, so this is the Amazon integration guide. So again, this is designed to work on any Alexa-enabled device. A couple things that you want to know before getting started is, as I mentioned, the actual phrase structure must be Alexa turn on followed by the macro name, and then Alexa turn off followed by the macro name. So here are a few examples of Alexa reserved words. So what this means is these are words that Amazon has selected to be reserved. In other words, there's system commands for the Amazon software in itself. So for example, there's turn on set, turn on volume, turn on play, turn on pause, turn on mute. These are things that will not work because the thing is when you say these commands, what happens is Alexa doesn't know how to react to them because there are system commands built in the Alexa device that use this. So for example, turn on volume, Alexa doesn't know if it means to turn on the volume of your total control system or to turn on the physical volume on the speaker of the Alexa device itself. And there's many other caveats to this. So if you're trying to set a specific song, what Amazon's going to try to do, it's going to go ahead and open up Amazon Music and ask you if you want to purchase it. So the reason this happens is because of the hierarchy that Amazon has built into these devices. Remember, Amazon is trying to make money as well. So they want to go ahead and push their stuff first, and then all third party comes after that. So that's something that you got to keep in mind that URC had to work with in order to create this module. Now, things of this nature can change as our relationship with Amazon gets a little bit better. They allow us to do a little bit more with the API that they've provided us with. So all this stuff can change in the future. But as it stands today, this is how it works. This is the limitation that they have created for us. So that's just how it works. So as you can see in the little side note here, URC integration functions as an Alexa smart skill. At this time, this creates limitations in the available command phrasing. Presently, the supported phrases are the ones located on the left-hand side, which is Alexa turn on, macro name, Alexa turn off, macro name. In terms of adding this into your system, it's extremely simple. There's no need to go into the URC control room to download a separate module, although I highly recommend you go into the URC control room to at least download this integration guide. If you guys want, at the end of the class, I can actually I can go ahead and send this integration guide as a downloadable PDF, which is what you're viewing right now. I believe GoToWebinar allows me to share this as a handout. So if you guys are interested in that, just let me know. I'll go ahead and do it towards the end of the class. But essentially, the process is the same as if you were adding any type of two-way module, well, I guess built-in two-way module, such like a camera or something like that. You would go ahead and jump into step 4. Of course, you want to go ahead and do all of step 1, step 2, and step 3. Add all your URC devices, add all your rooms, do the name and location stuff. Once you're in step 4, you're going to jump into the URC database, which it opens up there by default. Then you're going to go ahead and select the two-way advanced module. So that's what you're going to select under select module type. This is a form of two-way advanced module, and it's located under the category of auxiliary, so AUX. From there, you'll go ahead and select Amazon, and then the actual module name is called Alexa Voice Service. Once you select that, hit Add to Add Selected Modules, and it'll be included in your project tree. I see we have another question here. You do not need to address this to everyone. I am simply asking the question based on sheer number of macros you will need to create. Well, it's fine, Rodney. You know, any questions that you have, I'm pretty sure the group may have or may not know. So I want to address questions just because it doesn't just benefit you, it benefits the entire class. And it's good information to know regardless whether I present it now or present it later. If I present it now and I speak about it later, it just allows me to build upon what was already said. So no worries, Rodney. If you have more questions, please go ahead and make them. We encourage questions because it allows us to really know what you guys need and how to answer what you guys need. And if we don't have the answers to these questions, JR will jot them down and I'll go ahead and investigate what the true answers to these questions are and give you guys feedback, because I do have all of your email addresses when you guys sign up for this class. I get all that information. So any questions you have, and if me and JR cannot answer them, we will find a way to answer them, even if it's post-class. So please, anybody else who has questions, just please make them. It does make my job and JR's job a lot easier when you guys ask questions, because then we know specifically where you need help and what to answer. So as I've mentioned before, you only need one Alexa voice service module into your total control system, regardless of how many Amazon devices you physically have. So that's just a little call you can see here. So this process of adding the module is very simple. This is as straightforward as it can get for adding a module. You know, it's nice that you don't have to go into the URC control room and download a separate module and all that extra legwork. Now keep in mind, if you have not updated your accelerator software in a long time, you're going to want to do that. The only way you're going to have access to this is if you update accelerator. And the other thing that you would also get access to if you update accelerator is our Doorbird module, which is added through the same means. It's built into the software. There's no need for extra downloading or anything like that. So please always update your software. It's always good to have. It's always good to do. So after you're done with that, you're going to jump into step 6, and you're going to go into non-URC device. Now you're not going to enter in the actual physical IP address of the Alexa device because it doesn't function that way. However, you do need to enter in a dummy IP address, and this is simply for accelerators purposes so that it can track all the non-URC devices you have connected to your system. Just make sure whatever IP address you enter in there is different from any device that you actually have to enter in an IP address for. So for example, if you have an IPTV, an IP AVR, or any other IP device that you need the specific IP address, make sure you have all those listed as you normally would, and make sure that your Alexa device has an IP address that's different from anything else that's there. So although the Amazon Echo module does not require an IP address, it is best practice to put a fake IP address. This ensures consistent behavior of the module. It's just a little call out that you guys should know, and it's a best practice to do. After you've done this, you pretty much program steps 7, 9 as you normally would. In step 10, you're going to go ahead and accelerate. There's really nothing special to do there unless you want to do some customization, but really the primary things that are going to take place happen under step 12. So program step 11, if you have any third-party two-way settings, any third-party devices that you need to enter in two-way settings for, such as cameras or whatever the case may be. But under step 12, this is where you're going to want to accelerate. And after you accelerate, you're going to go ahead and jump into edit automation macros. This is the only place where you can go ahead and add an Alexa module. So, an Alexa macro. Any Alexa macros you create or that you want added to the system are done as automation macros. And this is essentially how it's going to look. So I'm going to actually jump into accelerator so you guys can see this in a little bit better light, and then we'll continue on from the integration guide. So we're going to jump here into step 12. We're going to go into edit automation. Now this control file here is actually something that Mark Bayan, who is one of our trainers, he created this. He's actually working on this big project called the Automation Cookbook. What the Automation Cookbook is, it's going to be a press release that we release on the URC control room with ideas for automation. So ideas with using Amazon Alexa modules, ideas using new features that will be coming out very soon, such as NFC, geofence, and push notifications. So he built this, and he has a couple devices here that already use the Amazon Alexa module. So we're going to go ahead and double-click on one of those. We're actually going to go ahead and double-click on the bedroom off. This is what you saw in the integration guide. I'm going to go step by step as to how all the parts and pieces here work. So the name here, which he labeled bedroom off, this name simply appears on this little panel here. It appears under the device event tab. Whatever you name here is what's going to appear here. The customer does not see this name. This is something for the installer to know so that you can recognize which macro this is going to be. Under available devices, as you can see, it has a couple things here that would be selectable, such as the TRFZW, the rack thermostat, and Amazon Echo. So the clear choice here is the Amazon Echo module. So by selecting that, this will automatically fill in Smart Home Scene because that is how Alexa views this type of device. Now parameters. Now this is something that's extremely important. Under this box here where it says name, this is the actual vocal trigger. So whatever you set up here is what's going to go ahead and be triggered. So since I touch this here, these boxes change, but that's fine. So what we're going to do, since this is supposed to be bedroom off, the name that we want to be the trigger is bedroom, and what we're going to select here is turn off. So now what this does is it creates a trigger that's set off by this phrase, Alexa, turn off bedroom, or turn off the bedroom, And the way that you will find out which one to say, I'll show you shortly in the integration guide. Because unfortunately, when you do this from here, you don't know which way it's gonna work. Some phrases will require the in the middle. Some phrases don't require the in the middle. It's strange how Amazon views all these macros to get set up. But the tool that I'm going to show you shortly shows you exactly how to say it verbatim. So for now, we're just going to do this, and what this would do in theory is set up a vocal trigger that will read, or that would state, Alexa, turn off bedroom, or turn off the bedroom. We select OK, and that's it. That's been set. And then from here, we can go ahead and add in individual devices. We can add in Z-Wave devices. We can add in device power macros, which if you're looking to go ahead and do devices, well, if you want to go ahead and create macros that will track, as was the previous question earlier, this is how you would do it. You would set up a macro as a device power macro, and this allows Accelerator to track what's going on with Alexa. And I see we have a question here, which says just English. I believe at the time it's just English. JR, is that correct? I don't think I've heard anything with any multiple languages yet.
I don't know for sure, but I will send out a quick email to the team and try to get right back to everybody.
All right, perfect. Yeah, I'm actually not sure about that. That's actually a pretty good question. So what happened here, so as we can see there's a system macro for bedroom off. What Mark did here was he went into a room power macro, and he went into master bedroom, and he did this one, master bedroom off, and that creates this right here. And adding it is simple. You would just go ahead and drag it over. I guess he actually did a different room because that is bed. But that's essentially what you can do here. So anything that you program in any of these categories, so it could be a universal macro, be a system command, it could be room power macros, depending on which room you're in. You can go ahead and add that into there. Two-way light commands you can also add into here. Anything that you can program either as a special macro, or anything that you can program in a special macro can be added to an Alexa macro. We have a question here. I can do more than one activity with one voice command. Oh, can I do more than one activity with one voice command? Yes, if you wanted to do something like, let's say you wanted to do a living room on, and you wanted to go ahead and turn on the cable box, turn on the lights, do all of that, that is possible to do. And you can do that as a room power macro. If you're going to have multiple devices turning on, you would want to do that as a room power macro, because that allows Accelerator to track what's turning on. If you don't do it as that, it won't function the same way. And I will show you how to do that. Actually, I can go ahead and show you how to do that now since we're already in Accelerator, and then we can jump back into the integration guide. So let's say we wanted to do that. Let's say we wanted to go ahead and do something like, let's go to Edit Macro by and locate something that we can do in the living room. We have a macro for, got macros for pretty much everything here, so we can go ahead and I'm just going to show you the process of doing this. So let's say we wanted to go ahead and do something like, I'm trying to look for an example, some can do multiple things of, so let's say we wanted to raise the shades as well as do something like turn on the PlayStation. So this would combine a couple different things. So the want to do is create a device power macro for the PlayStation. So we would just go ahead and we would copy this. So to do that, you just select the first command, hold the Shift key, and select the asterisk. Hit Control-C. Unfortunately, Accelerator doesn't give you any type of confirmation that it has copied. So then we'll go edit those into device power macros, which is fine. We want to go ahead and select the master bedroom, which is where we were. Actually, was that? No. Give me 1 second, guys. Jared, did you answer the question for if it's only one language?
Yes, right now Alexa only supports English, but in different accents. It's really not a function of URC. It's what Alexa supports at this time. You never know. I'm assuming that'll probably change in the future, but right now it's just English. Great question.
And I see we have another one here. So I have done this, copied macros from the normal switching commands. The remotes in iOS and Android device always default to the last state that the remote selected. On iOS it shows the correct state, and in the now playing in the upper right hand corner, however, the remote interfaces switches to the last state set by the remote of iOS Android application. Is this something I should talk to tech support about? Yeah, I believe that is something that you should contact tech support about, because in terms of how you do this, this is the way to do it. So there may be something that's going on that may be incorrect or just set up in an odd state. What you can do is contact tech support and send them a copy of your total control file, and they can go ahead and test it and see what exactly is going on, or maybe they can just go ahead and take a look at your file and maybe just see something right off the bat that isn't immediately visible. So I would definitely recommend contacting tech support with that issue, because this is the process of how it's done. This is how it was explained to JR and myself. So in terms of procedure, this is the procedure for it. If you are experiencing issues and you've followed this procedure, then that's definitely a time when you should contact technical support. So essentially what we would do here is we would go ahead and add a macro, and we're going to go ahead and call this, we're just going to call it PS4 since that's what we were trying to do. So we'll put this here, and then we'll select the asterisk and hit paste. Now the reason we want to do this as a room power macro is because it keeps all the device powers and all the information that was found in edit macro by room. And this is where the tracking comes into place. Now, as I mentioned before, if you've done this process and you are not having the tracking, that's a situation where you want to contact tech support, see what's going on. Could be something else that's wrong in the file, or something that just wasn't set up properly, or potentially, I mean, this would be a worst case scenario, a bug, but I don't think there are any bugs that we know of. But regardless, if you're having an issue where you've set up a room power macro, to track a specific device command and it's not working, that's definitely when you would want to contact tech support. So now that we have this here, we're going to go back into edit automation macros. And I said I wanted to go ahead and put this when we close the bedrooms, when we close the shades. So we would go here. So this is an automation Alexa macro that would go ahead and close the shades. So Alexa, turn off bedroom shades would come down, and that's all that would happen. However, if we wanted this to do two things, we would simply go here, go to room power macros, select the room that we created this in, select the macro we created, and drag it over. Now, when we say, Alexa, turn off, what was the command again? Sorry. Off bedroom shades, it would not only close the bedroom shades, but it would go ahead and play the macro that would go ahead and do all the commands to turn on the TV, switch the input, and have it set to play PlayStation 4. So essentially, shades are dark. Well, the room is dark because the shades are down. TV turns on, and it's time to play PS4. So that's an example of how you do it. Granted, this may not be a scenario that you would want to do, but I was just trying to show you the procedure of how it's done, and that's how you do it. So now we're going to go ahead and jump back into the integration guide. Now that you guys have seen that and you have this knowledge, it kind of makes the process of the rest of the integration guide make a little more sense. So this is everything I just showed you guys. This just labels everything and discuss it in terms of what it does. So name, available device, the smart home scene, which automatically fills. But the most important thing from this window is this right here. This is going to go ahead and have Accelerator tell Alexa what the triggers are, and Alexa will react to whatever you put into these two categories here. After you've created that, as you've seen me do in an Accelerator, just select OK. And then from there, you can go ahead and create whatever type of macro you want, which I showed you guys. I'll go ahead and add another one so that we can show you how to do, for example, like Alexa, turn on ESPN. So that's what I'm going to show you now, just so that it makes this make a little more sense. Create a macro scratch. So we're going to select Add Macro. We're going to call it ESPN. Now this could be anything you want. I'm just using this to serve as an example. We would go ahead and select the Amazon Echo. So like I told you, it shows this. We'll still call this ESPN, and we'll select Add. So you can see it's added to the device event right there. And now when I select this, you see that the macro window is blank. So I can go ahead and enter in whatever I want from here. And as you guys have seen me do with the previous one, if I wanted to add a room power macro, you saw how to do it, you saw how I created it, and there's also steps in the integration guide as to how to do it as well. So I'll return to that when we get to that part. But if I wanted to do this to, let's see what cable box did to here. He added BIOS in rack, so just do that. So we're going to go to connected device. Now since this is channel numbers I should say, all we need to do is go here. Now the exact channel ESPN, so with me that I'm just going to go ahead and enter in random numbers here. And if ESPN happens to be on channel 36, once you say turn on ESPN, what's going to happen is Accelerator is going to go ahead and send the digits 036 to the FiOS 1 in this case, which is on the rack, and that will go ahead and change the channel. So again, it's real simple. You start off by add macro. If it's already a macro that you've programmed before, or if it's just a couple commands that you want to throw in here, you can do so by just selecting the appropriate option from here. Otherwise, if it's a device that you want to freshly program, like I did with the PS4 macro, you would first copy the macro from Edit Macro by Room, which to do so, I'm just going to show you guys the process. I'm not going to really add anything. I'm just going to select something a little bit longer. We would select this, hold the Shift key, and drag it down here. Then we would hit Control-C. We would go into Edit Special Macros, and head and go to Room Power Macros, Add Macro, call it whatever we want. Again, this is something that only you would see in Accelerator, and then you would just go ahead and paste it. So that's how you, and then you would go ahead and drag it into here by selecting device power, and I don't remember what room I add that into, but the process is the same as I showed you for the PlayStation 4. I was just showing you the process of copying something just because I feel like that is something important to repeat. You know, just hold the topmost item, we'll select the topmost item, hold the Shift key, select the asterisk, Control-C, go into the into the room power macro that you create, and hit Control-V to paste. So now we're going to return back to the, go ahead and, well, I'm going to show you how this is discussed here. Although an Alexa macro can perform any action that the total control system could, if you would like the system to track the current room activity, you need to utilize room power macros for these activities and alias them with an Alexa macro. See the creating tracking macro section of this document, which I'm going to show you. But essentially, what I showed you guys in Accelerator is what's explained in this integration guide. I just feel like it's better to show you guys first. That way, when you read it, it makes a lot more sense. I personally am a visual learner, and I think most people tend to be visual learners or tactile learners, but I feel like showing things visually is a good representation of what you can expect to read. So even though you have all this set up in Accelerator, you still got to download, and when you download, there's a couple extra steps you got to do. So after you download, you're going to go into any URC interface you have, whether it's a URC mobile device, a TRC 1080, a 7600. You're going to go into the settings menu, and you're going to locate Alexa Voice Service. From Alexa Voice Service, you're going to select that, and you're going to see something that looks like this. It's just a little getting started window, and it's going to say, works with Alexa for voice-controlled devices, requires linking credentials to communicate to your URC system. So you're just going to go ahead and select Generate Credentials, and it's going to display this. And this is something that you're going to enter into Amazon. So make sure you take note of this, write it down, keep the interface next to you while you're on the computer. And what you're going to do is either in Alexa app or the Alexa web interface, and you're going to first add this skill. So just to show you that real quick, the Alexa portal looks, and it's going to look very similar on the Alexa mobile application, whether it be iOS or Android. It's going to have the same look and feel as this. You would go into skills, URC, and this is similar like adding an app from for iOS. So you just type in URC, and you can see URC Smart Home. We select that. Now this skill is already enabled, so I'm going to disable it also because this is the Alexa credentials for the engineering team. So I'm pretty sure they'd be upset at me if I disabled this. But typically, this would say enable skill. It wouldn't say disable skill because it's already enabled. But when it says enable skill, you select that. Once you select that, it's going to go ahead and show you this right here, this little window right here. And what you're going to do is you're going to take that name and code that you got from your URC interface and enter that in here. So name in the first box, code in the second box. Once you do that, it's going to bring you to this screen. So it's going to say hello with the name that was entered from the URC interface. Do you want to grant access? You're going to go ahead and select grant access. Now keep in mind that you need to make sure that pop-up blocker is disabled. Otherwise this will not display. This was something that I actually got a chance to see. If you have pop-up blocker and you're trying to do this, it's not going to work. It's going to drive you a little crazy until you realize that you do need to disable pop-up blocker because there is no notification that tells you, hey, you need to disable this. So something that you guys want to keep in mind. I don't know if Google Chrome does it, but when I did this, I did it on Mozilla, and it did not let me know that there was that I needed to disable pop-up blocker. So that's really simple. Once you select grant, you know, the smart skill will be enabled, and that is the essential handshake from Alexa to URC. Now remember, this is done post-download, so this is after you've completed the programming and you've already downloaded to your total control system. A couple things that I want to show you here. If we go into skills, oops, sorry, if we go smart home, wrong one, smart home, this should go show us any type of skills that we have on our Alexa device in general. So this is just general Alexa navigation. This is just how the software works. If your customer has additional smart skills that they've added on their own, you're going to see all of that here. What is important for you guys and for total control in terms of what you guys are doing for URC is this right here, which is the URC smart skill. And things you can see here are certain scenes or skills that were added from here. So for example, what they've been testing in the testing team is dimmer off, dimmer light, dimmer switch. These are just devices that they've added, because once you've got all this set up, you can just go ahead and say Alexa discover devices, and what this will do is it'll go ahead and discover devices automatically. So let's say you have a Nest thermostat as a two-way module. You would go ahead and say Alexa discover devices, and it would go ahead and discover the Nest thermostat. But again, this is done post-download, so we're going to go into that to the integration guide because this is explained here. So using URC Smart Home. So this is where you can, like I said, you can say Alexa discover devices. So there are two-way modules that that you can add into Total Control that have already been updated to work with the Alexa module. Keep in mind, if you have an older version of any of these two-way modules, you do need to update them, which means you're going to have to re-add them, unfortunately. Unfortunately, there's no real easy way to update them other than re-adding them. This could change later on, but as it stands, you have to just remove them and re-add them. Now, when you do this, and you have all your two-way modules programmed, and you've already downloaded to your system, by saying Alexa discover devices, it'll go ahead and discover these listed two-way modules. So it'll discover any Z-Wave lights and scenes, it'll discover any Lutron lights and scenes, it'll discover Nest thermostats, it'll discover any Honeywell Total Connect thermostats, Vantage, Aprilaire, Coolmaster, Techmar. These are the current two-way modules that are compatible with Alexa. There's going to be more. Our engineering team is working to make all of our two-way modules compatible with Alexa. But as it stands from release, this is what is compatible and what will be discovered by just saying Alexa discover devices. Again, this is done after you download, so keep that in mind. Now, here's something else that I need to mention with this. There are smart skills available for these devices individually. So one that I usually show, there's a smart Nest. Yes, there is. Go ahead and say on your total control system, you have a Nest thermostat two-way module. You log into your customer's Alexa portal, so let's say you're on this web page, and you see that they have the Nest skill enabled. This is going to create a conflict. The reason this is going to create a conflict is because there is something already Nest related in Alexa, which is coming from this skill, and then by adding something that's discovered from URC, this creates confusion within Alexa, because to Alexa, it sees two separate Nest devices, even though it's simply one device. In this situation, you want to choose which one you want to use, whether your customer wants the Nest Smart Skill from Alexa, or if they want the Nest two-way module from Total Control. Now remember, if they're just using the Nest skill from Alexa, they won't be able to get any two-way feedback from that, because that's not our software. That's software designed from Nest for Amazon. If they're using our module, not only will they be able to control it using the Alexa voice service commands, but they will also be able to get the two-way feedback on their URC interfaces. So the thing to keep in mind here is, if there's going to be a device or a two-way module that you're using that there's also an individual smart skill for, you have to choose one or the other. You can't do both. We recommend using our two-way modules, and the reason for that is because if your customer is using a total control system, that means they want that two-way feedback from those devices. If they have this smart skill, the only thing they can do with that device is communicate to it via Alexa. They can't do anything else with the URC interface if you're only using that smart skill. So that's something that's extremely important. Remember, only one of these per time. So if you have a smart skill and a two-way module, you're going to have to make a choice. And URC's recommendation is that you choose our two-way module. It's going to give more to your customer. You know, if they're using URC, they've got various interfaces. They're going to want that two-way feedback. And this is something that you're going to have to explain to them, because chances are they're probably pretty excited they have this Amazon device, and you need to explain to them that if you want this two-way feedback on all of your URC interfaces, you need to go with the two-way module. So that's just something that's very important for me to call out. We've gotten a lot of phone calls here about this, so just stuff that I need to address for you guys. You have to say a lot of discovered devices. That's just the easiest way to do it. You can also do it from the mobile app. This is a screenshot from a mobile app. You can just select this, and it will do the same thing as if you said Alexa discovered devices. So that's the most important thing that I need to go ahead and relay from this page in the integration guide here. Here is the customizing Alexa voice service URC web page. What this is, it's not really a web page, it's really a method of accessing your master system controller. Unfortunately, the base station that I have here is an MRX20, and the master system controller in the total control file is an MRX10. And the network that I have here in the studio is not reliable, as anybody who was in last week's class can attest to. So I can't show you guys how that looks on the actual web page, but I do have screenshots here that show a good example of how this looks. Essentially, to access this, you would go ahead and enter in the IP address of your base station. So open up Google Chrome, enter in whatever the IP address is from your base station, which you can get that from step 6 after you've discovered your MRX10, MRX20, MRX8, whatever the case may be. So let's say my base station's IP address was 192.168.1.200. I would enter in that information into Google Chrome on the URL, and then follow it with :51535. This allows the web page, this allows your web browser to log into the master system controller and open up this URC voice service web page. Now, there's a lot that you can do from this web page, such as enable or disable Alexa modules and more. So if you select the Home tab, it'll go ahead and show you, it'll just actually bring you back to here. The device list, which is number 2 here, this will bring you here, which this is very important. This shows you all the Alexa modules that you built in Accelerator, and it tells you what the command is for them. So for example, one here is Alexa, turn on the party, Alexa, turn off the party. And then another one here is Alexa, turn on the office, Alexa, turn on the relay once, Alexa, turn off the relay once. So whatever you go ahead and add into Accelerator, when you log into this here, it tells you what to say in order to go ahead and trigger that macro that you programmed. So obviously this is not what was programmed in that total control file we viewed, but this gives you an example of how that looks. And when you're ready for testing all of these commands, this is what you do. You log into this, and you just essentially read it like a list. Say all of this, see if it works, see if it doesn't work. If it doesn't work, sometimes it's just Alexa didn't understand you. My dad has a very heavy accent when he speaks English, so I'm pretty sure if he was trying to use this, he would have a hard time getting it to work. But Alexa's very adaptable, which helps, which is something that JR mentioned. It does understand English with various different types of accents. So that is something that's good, and you know, it means that you will have stability with your system. Sometimes you may have to say a command more than once just for Alexa to understand, but that's just Alexa. That's not something that we can control, unfortunately. That's just how Alexa works, kind of just how voice commands kind of work. It's 9 times out of 10 it's going to hit, but it's always going to be that one time where it's going to miss, and it's going to just make things a little awkward, but that's okay. You can also see a couple things in this column. This section here is just module type, which generally it's just going to be a total control module if it's a macro that you program. If it's a device that was discovered by saying Alexa discovered devices, it'll go ahead and say something else. If it's a Z-Wave device, it'll say Z-Wave on it. And this box here is a checkbox. The checkbox is pretty self-explanatory. If it's checked, it's enabled, you can use it. If it's not checked, it's disabled, you can't use it. The other thing that's important here is you can actually print this page out and give it to your customer. Why is this important? You want to print this out and give it to them so that they know what vocal triggers they can say to control their system. So real good information to have. This is something that you also want to visit post-download. And this is really, whenever you're going to test something, you want to test it from here so that you know what the exact commands are, what the exact phrasing is to go ahead and trigger your macros. This is just more information as to what all these little tabs do. I'm not going to go into this into detail since I kind of just explained it. You know, the print list, the help tab just pretty much gives you contact information, and it also has a frequently asked question, an FAQ page. So this is just questions that the engineers felt that would have been asked. You guys know what I mean. That most people would go ahead and question. So this frequently answered questions page just gives quick answers, and it generally has information that you may need. If you have a question, I suggest checking out that help page first, seeing if it's answered in that FAQ. If it's not, then go ahead and contact technical support, and we'll be more than happy to help you out with this. Now, something that you can also do is view the advanced configuration page. This is only accessible by the installer, so this is only you guys can access this. And this is essentially where you can just go ahead and disable specific two-way modules. This isn't Alexa commands like Alexa turn on cable, Alexa turn on ESPN. This is the two-way modules that were discovered when you said, hey, Alexa, well not hey, Alexa discovered devices. So this is going to show you like Nest thermostats, your Lutron lights, your Z-Wave lights, your Z-Wave thermostats. This is only going to show you all those two-way modules. So let's go ahead and say that your customer said, I don't want to use the URC two-way module. I only want to control my Nest over a voice service, over the Alexa Smart Skill. So what you would do is just go into this page here, go into advanced configuration, and uncheck this box here. The reason you would do this is you don't have to remove the two-way module from the total control system. All you simply do is disable it from here and select update, and anytime your customer says Nest, it will not trigger Alexa to do something in total control. So that's another way that you can overcome that issue if your customer wants to use the Smart Skill, but you don't want to remove this from the actual total control file in case they ever change their mind and just want it to be re-enabled. You know, you would just simply log into this page again and just select that checkbox. So that's what this advanced configurations page is for. It's for your two-way devices or your two-way module devices that you discovered when you said Alexa discovered devices. Really powerful tool. Will save you time as opposed to going into Accelerator, removing it, re-downloading, all that. That takes time. We got a question here. Can you show how to get to that page? Unfortunately, I don't have access to this page because I don't have it on here. But when you hit, okay, actually, you can view it from here. So hit the Home tab. It brings you here. You'll see URC Alexa Voice Service, and then you would go ahead and select Advanced Configuration. Now, if your question is in regards to how to access this page in general, you would do that by following this step here. So you open up a web browser, Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, Safari, God help you if you're using Internet Explorer, but you would go ahead and enter in your base station IP address, which this is the IP address of your MRX10 or your MRX8 or your MRX20. but you want to make sure you're entering in the IP address of your primary system controller. That's the most important thing. If you don't know your IP address by heart, which I wouldn't blame you if you didn't, just go into step 6, look for your MRX10 or whatever the case may be, and that will show you the IP address of the device. You enter that into your web browser. So in this example, the IP address is 192.168.1.200, and then you follow it by this very important series of numbers. The first thing you have to do, there's no spaces involved, so you enter in your IP address. Immediately follow that last digit with a colon. Then you enter in this series of digits, 51535. You have to enter that in. That's the only way you can get access to this page. So the primary system controller IP address followed by colon 51535. By entering that, it will bring you here. Now from there, if you want to enter in the advanced configurations page so you can disable two-way modules from Alexa, not disable it from the total control system, but from Alexa, you go into advanced configuration, and that brings you here. Perfect. Happy we were able to help you out. Okay, so that's essentially what you use that page for. The other portion here of the integration guide is just showing you how to keep track of your power macros. Well, keep track of macros that you like I showed you with the PS4 macros. So this is just step by step. You know, this is something if you guys want to read through. I won't go into too much detail with this because I did already show you guys how to do this within Accelerator. But if you want to review this at your own pace, this is where you could jump into. It's page 14. It is detailed, so there's a few pages of this information, but it's good to read, and it'll just reinforce whatever I told you earlier in today's class. So again, you know, just step 12, select your macro, select the topmost command, hold the shift key, select the asterisk, hit Control C, go to edit special macro, go to select special type of macro, which is this little box here. I see we have a comment here that says, I don't listen. I'm not sure what that's in regards to. Was that when I was explaining the room power macros? I can go over that again with the stuff that's here. It's not overly complicated. This explains it very, very well. Essentially, any type of macro that you want tracking with, you're just going to go ahead and create it as a room power macro. And you know, you simply go into edit special macros, select room power macro, select the room you want it to be in, select add macro, whatever you call it here, this is how it's going to be labeled in Accelerator. Then from there, you can just go ahead and paste whatever you copied from edit macro by room. And from there, you can access it in step 12. What's going on here? There we go. And then you can see here, once you paste it, it'll go ahead and fill in everything that you copied from edit macro by room, whatever specific device you were trying to go ahead and turn on. So the example that is used here is turning on living room cable. After you've done that, or if you want to go ahead and create, I'm sorry, this is actually to show you how to create a room power off macro. I showed you how to incorporate that into an Alexa macro, which I'll review again just so that you guys can see that process again. If you wanted to turn off a specific room, that's actually extremely simple. You can go ahead and create this as you normally would. So you would go ahead and call this living room off, select the Alexa voice service. It automatically fills in the smart home scene. The name for this would be living room, and then the type would be turn off. Then from there, you can just simply go ahead and select room power macro and just drag that over. So now in this situation here, when your customer says, Alexa, turn off living room, it'll go ahead and turn it off. And the reason it does that is because we dragged over this room power macro. So this is just a simple solutions and best practices page. So these are some things that you can run into. So similar devices, when does this happen? This occurs when two devices with similar names are programmed into the system. For example, if in the bedroom there is a device called bedroom lamp and bedroom lights, there can be a conflict when verbally issuing the command. So sometimes what will happen is Alexa will simply hear the bedroom portion, and then it'll tell you, I don't know what you're saying. The real simple way to do this is just either restating the command, or by simply changing one of the names of this devices in the Alexa portal that you can access from the base station. You can quickly edit the name of a device there, and that changes the phrasing. This is only if you need to do this. You know, for example, you could rename the bedroom lamp to corner lamp. This isn't something that you have to do, and this is only if you run into this situation. Chances are you may not, and sometimes simply reissuing the command by just restating it will go ahead and resolve it. Duplicate devices, this is, as I told you, if you have an Alexa Smart Skill enabled from Amazon side of the software, and you also have a two-way module from the URC side of the software, that's where you're going to get issues with duplicated skills. So you can have two Nest modules, anything that there's a Smart Skill and a two-way module for, that would create an issue. And I showed you how to do this. You can either remove it from the Alexa side, or you can disable it from the Advanced Devices page on that URC Alexa Voice Service web page. I already showed you about the URC web page, so you guys have seen how to do. It allows you to do quick device name changes and allows you to test your vocal commands. It gives you that list of phrases to use, and you can enable or disable advanced devices. Reserved words, we went over that in the beginning of this course. Now, Alexa groups, this is something that is an Amazon-generated user feature. This is not something that we recommend you guys do. This is something, if your customer wants it, let them do it. What we recommend is you create macros in Accelerator to control multiple devices instead of using groups. This preserves consistency and avoids conflicts with the software. Groups are designed to be set up by the end user and is an Amazon feature. So I see we have a question here. It would be handy to be able to dedicate commands to certain Alexa devices. This is feedback that we can go ahead and bring over to our engineers, and it could be something that's added later on. So just unfortunately, this is just the way that it works right now, and it does work very well. Of course, there's always room for improvement. There's always going to be room for improvement with any type of new technology, and we will improve upon what we already have. This is what we have now. It's barely been out for a month, so we're still getting feedback out from the field, from customers, from installers. So, if this is features that you want, you can email the training@universalremote.com. That goes over to the director of training, who can have more of a sway as opposed to JR and myself. You can also provide this feedback in the URC control room, on the forums. You can talk to your URC distributor. Give that feedback to them, because they can go ahead and provide that feedback to the executives, which can go ahead and trickle down into our engineers, and they can go ahead and create all this stuff for you guys.
And I've made a note of this as well, Rodney, so thank you.
And if you guys need more training resources, since we are at the top of the hour, just do real quickly, URC. Essentially, all of this information, you can get access to it in, or at least a step-by-step at your own pace in the university. The URC JR crew, all the e-learning available there. We have a e-learning using Alexa, and show by step how to set it up. He gives variables as to how to use it. As the network studio is not exactly most stable. And essentially, you would to the URC University. You can go in and you just type in Alexa. Here. Choppy to me. For some reason, on the network that I'm currently on, whenever I'm using the internet, even if it's just surfing or opening up a web page, if I'm moving my mouse, it will start chopping up. Unfortunately, the studio's network is not reliable, and I've been working with our IT department to get a more reliable network in here. I think you guys can hear me a little bit better now because I'm not moving around. But essentially, type in Alexa into the search bar, and it's this module, right? It's this e-learning right here. It's integrating Alexa with Total Control. Take that, and this is a course that's going to go into step-by-step as to how to set this up. It's going to go at a more at-your-own-pace style, so this is very beneficial. If you like today's class and you want to learn this more and do this at your own pace, this is where you do it. A network guy. Well, no, our guy's he's good. He's just he's kind of overloaded with all the things that he's got to do for us as well. But this is all I've got for you guys today. It's a minute from 10 o'clock, so I've worked with the hour that I was given. If you guys have more questions, please make them. Otherwise, I just want to go ahead and say thank you for your support. Thank you for joining today's class. I hope you guys got good information. I hope that I taught you guys something, or at least gave you something good to take away from today's course. Again, my name is Elvin Lopez. I'm the technical writer. I actually wrote this integration guide, and I was joined by JR, who he does all the e-learnings and all that good stuff. So if you guys like today's class and you want to provide some feedback, please email training@universalremotecontrol.com. And we appreciate all the feedback, and we appreciate your continued support. And thank you again for joining us in today's class. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
I will be closing this webinar in about a minute. So if you guys do have any last minute questions you want to make, now would be the time. Otherwise, we'll be closed and everybody will be logged off. So just letting you guys know that. Again, thank you for joining us today.